Hey everyone, it's Nikki, and today on this episode of Furry Reviews, I'm going to be talking about the film Chicken Run. Chicken Run is a collaboration between Aardman Animations and DreamWorks. It was directed by Peter Lord and Nick Park, and it was written by Carrie Kilpatrick. It is a stop-motion animated film, and it was released June 23, 2000. The film tells the story of a group of chickens led by the fiery Ginger, who are trying to escape the Tweedies chicken farm, when one day a rooster named Rocky mysteriously lands in their pen and tries to teach them how to fly to get out. By the way, there are going to be spoilers in this review, but this film is almost as old as I am, so if you haven't seen it by now, go watch it. So before I started talking about the more technical elements of the film, I wanted to start off with a list of my favorite parts, or my favorite things that are going on in the film. So the first thing I really liked was that Mr. Tweedy, who's the farmhand and husband of Mrs. Tweedy, was suspicious of the chickens the whole time. Like, this man was onto them from the start. He knew that they were smart, he knew that they were plotting something. Nobody else believes him, but he believed it the whole time and it was hilarious. Another thing I really liked was the references to The Great Escape, particularly when Ginger was throwing the little, cabbage ball against her cell wall, like the main character of The Great Escape does with the ball while he's in his jail cell. Another thing I really liked was Rocky flying over the fence on a trike, another reference to The Great Escape. It was just a really funny scene, particularly when he comes crashing down amongst a group full of literal hens. And there's Mac's indecipherable Scottish accent. I really felt like Rocky as an American watching the scenes with her talk, trying to decipher exactly what she's saying. British people, sometimes I'm like, I know we're speaking the same language, but I cannot understand what you're saying. And Mac really embodied that kind of feeling. Then there's Nick and Fetcher, just being good little rats, man. I really liked their characters, they were cute. And I liked how they were involved in the plot, trying to sneaking in and selling parts to the chickens in exchange for eggs. They're just good little rats, and I really liked them. The flip side of the point about Mac was that all the British little chickens were making fun of Rocky's Americanness, which as an American I also appreciate because we're kind of insane. So I really liked them poking fun at him, particularly, oh gosh, what's his name? Fowler, talking about or just making fun of him for being a kind of ladies' man. I really liked the reveal about Rocky's flight. I just thought that was an interesting plot twist. You knew something was coming when the poster showing him flying was ripped in half. You're like, okay, what's the other half? What's the catch here? And I really liked how they went about revealing that and how the chickens reacted to that reveal. Another thing I just love is these chickens just freaking made an airplane out of crates and chicken coops and random shit just around the farm. I love that so much. Speaking of the aircraft, the chickens try to get Fowler, who's this kind of old army man, to pilot the plane, which is where he reveals that yes, he was a part of the Royal Air Forces, but he was a mascot, not a pilot. Which was just the funniest thing in the whole movie. Is what, you really think that they'd let chickens fly airplanes? Just yes, Fowler, what an icon. And then there's Rocky's redemption arc. Obviously, he lied to the chickens about his ability to fly, and it was basically giving them false hope, and so he actually ends up leaving them, but he comes back to save the day, to save Ginger, and he risks life and limb to help them, and I just really appreciated that character arc for him. Speaking of his redemption arc, there's a scene where he and Ginger go through the meat pie machine. He's trying to save her, she's trying to not get killed. And just that whole journey of this machine that is one of those bigger on the inside type things, and just seeing how all these different steps made the pie was really fun. And finally, there's a scene where Mr. Tweedy gets revenge on his wife after her belittling and nagging him throughout the entire movie. It was just a good moment for Mr. Tweedy, and I really thought it was funny that she finally got her comeuppance. Alright, now I'm going to start talking about the technical elements of this film, which include the storytelling and writing, the art style and character design, the setting, and the performances. Storytelling and writing. The script for this film was great. The dialogue is super funny, the character interactions are great, and the plot is a fun ride, parodying war movies like The Great Escape in a way that children and adults can enjoy the movie and understand it. Art style and character design. I love Aardman's approach to character design. I grew up watching Wallace and Gromit, and I just really like their approach with these toothy chickens and these charming rats. And I also like how the chickens wear a bit of clothing to differentiate them from one another and give them a bit of personality. The claymation in this film is quite a different approach to the stop-motion technique used in Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is the last film that I reviewed, but it's still awesome in its own way. Setting. The backgrounds in this film look awesome. I especially like how the chicken coops are arranged like the cabins in a World War II prisoner of war camp, which is, once again, very reminiscent of The Great Escape. I also like the interiors of the chicken coops as well, with all the schematics of Ginger's failed plans and just some other kind of like character building details, as well as the, as I mentioned, TARDIS-like interior of the chicken pie machine that Rocky and Ginger navigate through during the climax. Performances. The performances are definitely one of the highlights of this film. As an American, I love all of the English and Scottish accents that the characters have, as well as the American Rocky's difficulty understanding said characters, particularly Mac. I think that Ginger and Rocky in particular have strong voice acting that just makes their interactions and their characters truly lovable. Before I wrap this review up, I wanted to think about comparisons that this film has with other media. Now, I feel like I mentioned The Great Escape like 1,000 times, which this film is obviously a parody of, but other than that film, I can't really think of anything to compare it to. It's just such a unique premise of these chickens trying to literally fly the coop away from their repressors. I don't know, maybe it's like Animal Farm in that regard. I haven't seen Flushed Away, which is another Aardman film starring anthropomorphic animals, in this case like rats and mice, so maybe it has similarities to that, but this film kind of stands out. So my final thoughts on this film are that it is a weird, unique, and funny film with a great story, great characters, great claymation, and great performances. I would definitely recommend it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!